Hello and welcome to today's adventure in archaeological gardening.
The Walkley expedition. I'm Dr. Veronica and I'm an archaeological specialist from the Italian Alps.
And I'm Dr. Lenore and I'm an archaeological specialist from Canada. And today we're here to take you on a journey to find out what kind of things we can find out about the garden and how we could excavate them using archaeological techniques. But remember, don't just do this without any permission. We're specialists. Make sure you've got the landowner's permission if you want to look in your own garden. Or kids, if you're watching, make sure your parents are okay with this.
Oh yes. So this is my garden and this is my house. So this is a Victorian terrace house and we can date the house to before the 1890s. The reason I know this is because I've checked the historic maps of Walkley, and the historic map dated to 1892 has already my house and the three houses next to my house on the map, and not much else. So basically these terrace houses were the first on the road. Walkley at the time was quite rural and had orchards and allotment and not very many houses. I also know that the house must have been built before the 1890s because I have a stove inside my kitchen that states 1899. So most definitely my house is older than 1890.
All right, should we go see what we can find?
Let's start our adventure. Come with us. Here we are. So this is the bottom of my garden and this is a small mound that I found here. This feature has interesting characteristics and we have been working around the area and made it a nice garden. We have even a hole for a fox. The name of the fox is George. Comes and visits sometimes. Then we built this structure where we keep our compost for the garden, and to do this we reuse some of the bricks that we found around the garden. The most common type of brick we find here is this one. So bricks often have their stamp on it, so the stamp tells you who the manufacturer was or who was the owner of the structure. So in this case we have SUGLC, which stands for Sheffield United Gas and Light Company. So we know that the light company in Sheffield started to make their buildings around 1823 until 1949. So we know that this brick must be around that age, which fits perfectly with my house, so contemporary to my house. We also understand that, of course, the Sheffield Gas and Light Company wasn't making bricks as a job, so probably there was a kiln that made the bricks for them. We can also find in this garden a Gregory Brick. So Gregory was a kiln in Eccles Road and probably made some brick for the Sheffield Gas and Light Company because was active in the same years. You can find many different bricks around Sheffield, but in general in the UK, and from their stamp, cameraman please, can you show our public the stamps? From different stamps you can find out the manufacturer and the date, so you can go online, type the name of the manufacturer that you can find on the stamp and find more information. So Lenore, what have you found on your side?
So over here I've got a big piece of slag. So this mound is actually not just any little hill, it is a slag heap. And we've got this piece here. If you look at this, slag looks like this. It's got lots of bubbles and vitrification, and it looks like it's been flowing and liquid. And that's because slag is actually made up of the oxides and silicates that you would find in iron ore, and these have a lower melting temperature than iron. So during the smelting process, these turn into a liquid and they drain away from the metal. And because they have been liquid, they look like this, that they've been flowing. And because they're made up of the silicates, which are the same thing that make up glass, it doesn't sound like any kind of rock. Yeah. And it sounds quite glassy, it looks quite glassy, and it is actually very light. And so if we go and we look in our slag heap here and we start to dig, we will immediately start finding pieces of slag, because that's what this hill is actually made of, just covered in a little bit of dirt. And so the reason we would find a slag heap here in Sheffield is because around this area are all of the things that you would need to make lots of good steel and iron, including good clay, water power, charcoal, and lots of iron ore. And so that became very popular and very a big important industry in Sheffield. And then lots of scientific developments. For example, Harry Brearley here in Sheffield invented stainless steel in 1912. Has kept the industry in Sheffield and made it very important, things like the cutler's works, and etc. And
So when do you think they put all these slags here?
well, so if we look at this mound and we look at the gardens and how this slag can be found through their garden and through their garden, and all of this is built on top of it, this slag heap is probably older than these houses and indicates that there used to be a place where they were creating iron somewhere near here, and this is how it's accumulated and now become part of Veronica's garden.
Oh, thank you very much. I feel quite important now. So I think this is the time to go and do some digging with our muscles here.
Our muscles.
And let's go. But we're not going to be as adventurous as Indiana Jones. Let's be honest. However, we might find some spiders.
All right, let's go.
During archaeological excavations, the archaeologists need to work as a team, otherwise it's too hard. So first, we have to remove the contemporary soil, which is the soil we walk on every day. So we have here some soil, and I can go with a pickaxe, which, yes, it looks a little bit violent, but we are sure that this doesn't have any delicate artifact. We know this is a new soil. So I can just remove it and I can uncover the next layer. So you can see that I'm discovering a new layer here with some little pebbles, yes, and I prepared a little amount of soil ready for Lenore to collect. Thank you, Lenore.
Thank you. And I come with my bucket and my shovel, sometimes my wheelbarrow, and now that Veronica has done all the hard work, I can easily remove the soil and take it away. In some contexts, if we don't know that the soil is modern and contemporary with us, we might run it through a screen or a sieve to see if there are any artifacts in it. But in this case, we know that it's fairly modern, and so we'll just be removing it. Okay, so now that we've learned about how to excavate and get rid of the topsoil, we've removed some topsoil here so that we can speed things up and carry on with our excavation. So what we know about this gardening fabric that we found is that it was put in place by the people who owned the house last. And they purchased the house in 2004. So that means all of the soil and things that we find on top of this gardening fabric are newer than that, and the earth below it is older, and the things we find in there will be older. So let's have a look and see what we can find. If I start to dig with my trowel and I remove some of this gardening fabric, immediately I have found So I have found some animal bones. Here we see a cow knuckle, and then these are 2 sheep or goat bones, and as you can see they have been cut and have these sharp angles, and so that tells us about what the people that lived here were eating and how they were preparing their food. And if we really wanted to, we could send these away to a lab and have experts date them and tell us the age of these bones and when these animals were living.
However, let's try to dig more and see if we can find some finds that can date our layer. So here we are. Well, I found, I think, more, yes, definitely, they sound. These are metal slugs, as the one that we found previously, and this confirms our hypothesis that a metal workshop was nearby. Sadly, these are not helping us dating our context yet, so we have to keep dig,
Okay.
and then see what we can find. It helps us. Dig. Oops. Woo!
Oh,
I found something.
have you?
Yes. Metal and ooh, that's a good artifact. Look, it's a bicycle bell. So yes, it's a familiar object, but definitely is not something that we would find in a modern bicycle, a bicycle we use now, because you can see the preservation is not very good. You can see the rust, so it's old. We still don't know from when though. We have to keep digging, see if we find something else.
Wow. You know what? This sounds different over here as well.
Aha.
So,
What have we got?
we've got this hard clay ball. Oh, this is a ball from the game Nur and Spell.
Nur and Spell. How do you spell it?
Nur is spelled Knurr.
Okay.
And so that game, Nur and Spell, was probably invented in the 14th century in the Yorkshire Moors, and it was really popular in the 18th and 19th century around here, and as a pub game. And so this is nice and heavy, made of clay. Sometimes the balls were made out of knots of wood, but if you find one of these in your garden, it tells you a lot about what the people of Sheffield were doing to keep themselves entertained.
Yes, so I guess we can then date this layer. So this level was probably used from the original owner of the house in the 1890s, really, because that was popular in the 19th century, correct?
Very.
Yes. So maybe we have solved our enigma today. Thank you, Lenore.
Oh. And thank you for coming on a journey with us in an exploration of Veronica's garden. We've found some really interesting things that tell us a lot about what the people of Sheffield have been doing in the past.
And thank you very much, and see you at the next adventure.
Bye, guys.